Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another Transformer video thing. I apologize for the odd setup and lighting. I'm just woefully unprepared to do a video on something as large as a Combiner Wars figure right now, at this point. So, this is the best I got. I'm sorry. We're all just gonna have to make do. It should be okay, though. Anyway, I wanted to do something a little different than a regular figure study, again, because I've had this is specifically Unite Warriors Superion. I've had him for a while, and when I first got him, I didn't even wait. I went out and got my hands on some Perfect Effect upgrade kits. So I wanted to actually talk about the upgrade kits themselves and whether or not I think that they were worth it. Now, specifically, I'm talking about the PC03 kit, which includes a piece that fills out his chest as well as a new head, which the new head is actually on there right now. It's one of those things where I had to take his old head off. As you can see right here. Had to take the old head off in order to put the new one on, and I was not going to put it back on for the sake of the video. So I'll do a more direct comparison in a minute with that. But yeah, the PC03 replaces his head and gives a piece that kind of fills out his chest a little bit. And the PC05... Do I have these backwards? No, I do not have them backwards. Okay, cool. So the PC05 gives him new hands and feet. Now, okay, I'm going to start with the PC03. And bring him a little closer and adjust the light a bit. Because I'm an amateur. Right, so looking at, get his arms up a little bit, looking at the face, you can see there's original Superion face, which is fine. It's just I wasn't too fond of like the wiggly antenna and the fact that you only got left and right swivel. I mean, it's still a good looking head, but you know, it's just a little limited for my taste. And then now we have the Perfect Effect upgrade head, which has these solid antenna that individually hinge back for transformation. He can actually look up. He can look slightly down, can still turn left and right, which is just really nice. And I like the slight added detail here, like the gold on the sides there, as opposed to the original Superion head, where he doesn't really have that detail. And the sculpting is obviously a little bit different too. Another thing that this head does, which I'm not really going to bother with showing off too much because it's a pain in the butt, but you can actually pop his head open, and inside here there's a second face that you can rotate this around, and it'll bring out his non-combat visored face, and it'll give him blue eyes. So he has a bit more of a human face, like a mouth and a nose, and a blue visor. So yeah, anyway, getting back to just the regular vanilla Unite Warriors Superion, he looks okay. You know, I think he looks pretty good. And I will say, unfortunately, even though I prefer the Perfect Effect hands and feet, the Unite Warriors, the official hands, the hand-foot guns, they do seem to be a little better at holding his weapons, which is kind of a shame. I'll just, for example, grab his gun here and take that in. And yeah, he holds that just fine. You know, you can turn it upside down and it's not going anywhere. He's got a good grip on his gun. Right. So now I'm going to change everything out. We're going to look at him with all the upgrade kits in. Be right back. Okay, and here we have Warriors Superion with both the PC03 hands and feet and the PC05. Sorry, the PC03 head and chest and the PC03 hands and feet. And this is, in my opinion, I think this was totally worth it. It's difficult to see because, again, amateur setup, but his feet are much wider, give him a bit more of a solid stance, in my opinion. And I just think they look a lot better when compared to these dinky little things. On top of that, he actually has ankle articulation. So he can, I mean, you could turn the regular Unite Warriors and Combiner Wars feet left and right, but here you actually get some tilt in various directions, which makes for a much more, you can get much more dynamic poses out of his legs, and he'll be more stable. Now, the ankle joints are a little bit, like, they're not as tight as, a lot of people would probably prefer. I wouldn't go as far as to say they're loose, but you kind of have to dial in the sensitivity with the with his ankles sometimes. Like, you'll go to pose him, and it's possible that you'll be, you'll tilt it a little too far, and then he'll start to slip a little bit. So you just kind of have to find that sweet spot. But you can get some really fun poses out of him. Like, typically, I'll have him in some kind of, like, ready for action kind of stance, and he does hold it actually pretty well. There you can kind of see his ankles want to tilt back a little bit, but you can see it's a pretty nice stance. I really like how those feet kind of bulk him out a little bit. In addition to that, I do, even though the color, it's hard to see in this lighting, but it's slightly different. The reds here are a little bit less, they're not quite as shiny as the figure, as Silverbolt's chest area. But, the red's pretty close. The white, this white is definitely not quite as muted as this one. This white, I think, this is probably a little bit closer of a match to the Combiner Wars set as opposed to the Unite Warriors, but honestly, because it's this strip going down the middle, I think it still works really well because you still get some nice symmetry going on, and it's close enough, the color matching. And I do really like how it bulks him out a little bit more. I mean, I still think he looks cool either way, but I do like how this fleshes him out a little bit, and also it kind of, I don't know, it bulks him out a little bit down here too, which is kind of weird to point out, but without it, you've got this weird kind of empty flat area here, which just kind of bugs me. And yes, this is how you actually attach this piece. You set up the chest open like that, and then you just kind of hook it over. Come on. Why are you suddenly... There we go. There it goes. Right. So I'm going to get him back into more of a regular standing position so I don't have to worry about him getting all fidgety on me. Good. Okay. Now for the hands, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here. Just steal one of his arms. I'll bring it back. His hands for the Perfect Effect set are very nice. Now, there have been, like, I've seen some people complain, and I can agree that you've got all four fingers are the same length, which is a little bit lame, but when you splay them out a little bit, then it's, they work a lot better. And, it's kind of more difficult to tell from that kind of angle. But yeah, they look good. My issue with these hands, though, is the up and down rotation is a little bit on the loose side, which means if you want to have him holding, say, his rifle with power glide, his wrist typically likes to flop down like that, which is kind of a pain. But you can curl the fingers into a nice little holding a gun kind of pose. And there is actually a slot there for you to plug in his gun. But this comes to the other issue that I have with this, and that is that it is possible to get him holding his gun and looking pretty cool. And, the wrist holds it pretty well, but it will start to sag a little bit if you wiggle it too much. But it looks pretty good, and it's also kind of cool how his finger can actually reach out, and it's almost like he's got a finger on the trigger. But the hand doesn't hold the gun very tightly. Like, oh, now you're going to make me a liar. Okay. Okay, I guess once you get it in there, you do have to mess with his thumb a little bit. Once you get it in there, it's okay. Like, it's not going to pop out, but it does kind of easily do that. And when it starts doing that, it'll slide right out. So it's not, if you'll pardon the pun, it's not perfect, but it's, it's nice. It's decent for what it is. It holds the gun well enough. And again, as long as you don't slap power glide on top of this thing, which I'm about to do just for the sake of example here, because now power glide can turn into a gun, remember? If you decide to combine power glide with his rifle, then that's just gonna droop with very little coaxing. Just a shame. But the fun doesn't end there. Now I think in combine mode, the hands and feet and the chest piece and the new head are great. But they all have functions when you're not in combine mode as well. And I'm going to show those in a sec. Be right back. Okay, so got regular hands and feet Superion is back. I'm just realizing I messed up the camera a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay. So, first off, the chest piece. All you do is you fold this a little bit down, and this will actually become a sort of shield that can attach to Silverbolt's arm, which is, it gets it out of the way. In vehicle mode, there's really not much you can do with it, though. Now, the hands, I really think the hands are cool, because if you decide, you want to display your Superion and individual robots, these hands will actually transform into rifles. So you straighten out the fingers and rotate the thumb around. Then there's actually a hinge in the middle here. So if you can kind of see there's like this little area here where there's like a clip there. So you kind of have to pull this half up and push this half down slightly to loosen that clip, and that will allow you to separate the hand. You fold that up, and as you're folding it up, there's actually this handle in here that you can flip out. So you flip that out, curl these fingers around, and straighten these fingers out, and there you have a rifle that the other aerial bots, any of the other aerial bots really can use, but I like to give them to the two that make up his arms because, it's his hand. But I think this is really cool. I mean, it looks like a gun. Like, it doesn't necessarily scream, this was a hand. The thumb actually makes a decent-looking scope. The double-barreled gun here looks pretty nice. The way this curls around is decent. It's pretty cool. I like it. And there's other hand, too. And then even the feet. can actually turn into dual Gatling guns. So each foot can be split in half. And each half, you fold the side out and then fold this little tab in. And then this particular side of the foot has these extra little things like the ankle and this little thing that serves no purpose. So you can fold those in, and then there's a little peg in here that you can pull out, and it's got a little groove in there so you can get a fingernail in to pull it out. But yeah, that turns it into a Gatling gun. And that can also be held by any of the aerial bots, and then the other half of the foot does the same thing. So each foot turns into 2 Gatling guns. Each hand, there's the other foot, each hand turns into 2 rifles. So however you want to display him, it works pretty well. None of these things really look or work all that great when in vehicle mode, unfortunately. There are ways that you can attach them. They just look kind of goofy. But, you know, they work. But honestly, you're not getting them for vehicle mode. It's more for, you know, combined mode. And in combined mode, I think these are really cool. Like I said, I love how the wider feet make them a little more stable. And yeah, the ankles are a little bit loose, but you can work around that. And honestly, I've been able to get some really cool poses with him without having to worry about him falling at all. I mean, just the ankle articulation alone, I think, makes these worth it. And then the hands, they're just fun. I mean, yeah, all the fingers are the same length, and this little tilt is a little bit loose, but I mean, you know, he can hold Power Glide in one hand just fine without really wiggling around too much. And he can hold his regular rifle just fine. It's the only problem is when you combine the regular rifle with Power Glide, really. So yeah, as for whether or not I'd recommend it, I absolutely would. I mean, if you like Combiner Wars or Unite Warriors and you want to kind of dress up your Superion a little bit more, I think that the 2 Perfect Effect upgrade kits are well worth it. I wasn't entirely sold on the chest piece and head upgrades at first. I ended up getting those afterwards, but I really, really like the way all this looks when it's put together. And I might catch flack for this, but you know, just from what I've seen, I honestly vastly prefer the look of Unite Warriors Superion with the upgrade parts vastly over something like you know, Uranos, which I'll admit, haven't ever seen Uranos in person, but based on all of the videos and pictures I've seen, I just like the aesthetic of the upgraded Unite Warriors Superion more than Uranos. That's, you know, just my opinion, though. Not saying one is better than the other. But again, if you're on a bit of a budget, I think it's cheaper to get a really cool looking Superion by getting, you know, either Combiner Wars or Unite Warriors Superion and then the upgrade kits, rather than spending $500 or more on Uranos. But, you know, it's all personal preference. Anyway, that has been my look at the Perfect Effect PC03 and PC05 upgrade kits for Combiner Wars or Unite Warriors Superion. Really, they work for either. And I hope that this has been informative. You know, please feel free to let me know if it's helped you at all. And yeah, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Any combination of those 3 would be super. And I will see you next time.